This is Resonance, a podcast for leaders that unpacks the power of song, silence, and strategy.
We believe that great leadership begins with deep listening, not just to others, but to the still small voice within.
It's not just about being a successful leader, it's about being soulfully aligned as well.
In a world moving fast, Resonance invites you to pause and reconnect with purpose, people, and possibility.
We'll dive into some cool stories, celebrate with friends, and dig deep into the music too. 'Cause song has a way of saying what words cannot alone.
So whether you're leading a business, a team, or just trying to lead your own life with more meaning, this is Resonance.
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 Welcome back to Resonance. I'm Mike Farrell, and I'm joined today here on the island with the usual cast of characters. We've got Randy the Professor, and Steve is Gilligan, and I'm going to be Skipper and take you through it today. So today we get to put Randy on the couch. The last two episodes, Steve and I have had to go through the ordeal. So today we're going to put Randy on the couch and talk about his story and kind of his work over the years. And to do that, I'm going to kick it over to Steve first. And Steve, you can talk a little bit about Randy and tell us a little more about what we're going to talk about.
Well, first of all, Mike, the monk guy Farrell, I don't know about you, but I'm still recovering from my time on the couch. I can tell you. So it's time for Randy, because Randy does that to you and me. He's done it to us. You did it to me. But Randy's got another level of something that I wake up in the middle of the night just shaking my head going like, what just happened? What happened? Well, I'm excited about having the opportunity for you and me to drill the wonderful, incredible mind, heart, and soul of our brother, Randy Harrington. Just as a consultant, when people talk about consulting, you know, there are people that are probably pretty bad at it, people that are pretty good at it, and people that are great at it. And he's just spectacular. I've seen it firsthand in a live audience with a big room of hundreds and hundreds of people. And with the CEO just sitting there all smiles and just proud of the fact that you could tell that he knows Randy is money. And he's penetrating, he's making a difference. He also does it barefoot, which is another whole thing. And he got rid of his ponytail, so he's no longer Samson. So I don't know about the deal. But I tell you what, though, to me, just getting to work with him personally was awesome. So, Randy, what makes a great consultant?
Wow. You know, I think when we were talking to Mike Farrell, the monk guy, we got to some of that. And what makes a great consultant is a sense of humility, a sense that it's not about us, it's about the client. And it's a willingness to really deeply listen and switch on to what the client's world is all about. So good consulting, no matter what kind of consulting you're in, really begins with a foundation of empathy. And if you want to know more about how to be a good consultant, go read Mike's books, because those are really good books to do it. But in general, that's it. I mean, in general, it's just this sense of being present for the client that is the foundation. If that's not there, everything else is going to be.
So, Randy, let's dig into your origin story, since Steve and I had to go through that ordeal. Let's talk. I know you grew up in Hawaii. I know that there's that background. Take us through kind of the, you know.
Yeah, you bet. It's been a good life. I mean, it's been a wild life. My dad
don't leave out your national championship at Ole Miss.
Okay.
Exactly.
I'll get to it. All right. Okay. I'll work that in. So a military brat. My dad was Air Force, retired as an Air Force colonel. He flew rescue helicopters. Before that, he flew B-52s, which is a whole nother story, to go from B-52. So here's a story. He gets orders to helicopter flight school on one day, and then the next day he gets orders to Vietnam. Think about that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was a thing. But anyway, my dad was cool dude, very intense, very type A, very buttoned up, you know. And coming out of Vietnam, praise be, he lived through it, and we ended up in Hawaii. And Hawaii turns out to be a fantastic place to go to junior high and high school, by the way, especially in the 1970s, which is, even by all accounts now on the islands, it was an epic time to be there. And it was very formative for me, for sure. I love Hawaii. It is a big part of who I am. One of the words that I live by is the word pono. And pono is the Hawaiian word that means what is right, what is good, what is appropriate, what is necessary. And so you'll hear people on the island saying, man, that's just not pono, man. That's just not pono. Or it is pono. Or you were righteous in pono, you know. So to be pono is to live right and well and good. And I think that's where that value really got kind of stuck in
What island were you living and what island did you grow up on?
Oahu.
Oahu.
So yeah, my dad was at Hickam Air Force Base, and my wife, Patty, we weren't married at the time. We were in high school, but she lived about 100 yards from me around the corner. Her father was a naval commander, and he retired a Navy captain. And so we became friends. We dated all through high school, and I could run from her house to my house in like 9 seconds flat, because my dad, if I was 1 minute late from curfew, that was a day of restriction. Her dad didn't give a dang, because I'd sit there and watch WTBS Westerns with him, because Patty was a swimmer and she was asleep on the sofa most of the time. So that was date night. But anyway, we ended up getting married after college. That's another story. But anyway, Hawaii was magnificent and terrific. And this is, these things, this is a kukui nut lei, right? And they're often given as a sign of excellence and importance. And it took me years, but it turns out, why was the kukui nut such a big deal? Because kukui nuts grow on the islands. And it turns out that my ukulele teacher, Lono, who Steve.
Sure. Amazing.
Lono says, kukui groves were very sacred places. And why were kukui groves sacred places? Because there's oil in a kukui nut. And if you had kukui nuts, you had light. So dig it. This was the gift of light to people, right? So, I mean, so it looks like, it just looks like it's a thing you put on. No. This is the symbolic nature. And that's the kind of stuff, when you get into Hawaii, you look at the top of it and you go, okay, there's hula, whatever. But if you dive deep, man, the world opens up in a powerful way. So Hawaii. Then when I was in Hawaii, I debated and did a lot of speech. And then because of my dad moving around a bunch, I ended up in the Southeast and ended up doing pretty well in debate in the Southeast, and ended up then getting a scholarship to the University of Mississippi. Hotty toddy. I got a full ride and had a coach there, a guy named Ty Warren, who is still my mentor, an irascible, tough SOB, but I love him to death. And he just took care of me. And he wanted to pull together a group of kick butt competitors and then travel around the country. Ole Miss had not been on that circuit, on the main circuit of speech and debate at the time, collegiate circuit. Mm-hmm. And then we hit it, and we hit it hard. And we started just winning and winning and winning. And we would go there, and people had never heard of us before. I was like, yeah, we're from Ole Miss. Look at this. You got toilets on the inside here. Isn't that amazing? That's just incredible. So we
whoa, hold it down now a little bit. I'm getting offended. Come on.
You do the same thing. But everybody looks at Mississippi and they think, Mississippi, that's got to be, Hickville and
not even close.
Slapdash. And then we would crush them. And so that was very enjoyable.
You win it all.
Yeah, so we did. We ended up with we had individual national championship winners and team national championship winners, and that would have been like 1980, 81.
Mm-hmm.
100 years ago.
Awesome.
And the program still exists at some level today. One of the things I'm most proud of, actually, in my career is we developed a thing called the Speaker's Edge, which is still running at Ole Miss. It's in its 24th or 5th year, and it's graduate students in business and accounting and law in a Clash of the Titans battle that goes over 2 weeks. And these kids are going to do somewhere between 3-5 speeches a day, doing presentations and getting hammered by coaches and judges. Coaches that are business people that come from around the country, and
having to communicate.
Yeah,
the pressure. I love it.
Yeah, it is. It's been an amazing thing, and I'm super proud of that effort.
You guys created that when y'all were there, Randy?
We created it about 15 or 20 years. I think
that's right. I
left.
I forgot you're 98. I forget your age. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm old. Yeah. That's
careful. Right. I resemble that remark.
I know. We gotta stay strong, man.
We're all getting older.
Yeah. But anyway, Ole Miss was pretty cool, and Ole Miss really set the foundation for me. I then did a master's degree at Chapel Hill in communication. And that's when I really got switched on to communication. I studied interpersonal and organizational communication at Chapel Hill, got married to my wife. She was working at Duke University at the time. And so we were married when I was 21 years old. Crazy. We're still married today. Crazy. Very lucky man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're young. When we're young, we gotta have some luck on our side when we making decisions based off of what's in front of you, all the trials and tribulations and everything. And hey, man, I'm grateful. I can tell you, I'm with you, brother. It's a thing that. Can I just interrupt real quick?
Please.
I want to say one thing as you laying on the couch, because here's what I'm hearing and feeling. And Mike, you can chime in as well. You grew up in this incredible structure with two military families as your families, because one, they were
Right.
becoming your family. But you grew up with the soul of Hawaii. And it makes all the sense in the world to me, because you're able to organize all these beautiful thoughts that you have. And that is, to me, the magic of Randy Harrington. And that's
Wow.
what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
I just feel like that you were a victim of your environment in a beautiful way. Same for me. And I can tell you that, folks, I'm going to just give a shout out to Mississippi. When you were here, that was another place of history that you were coming to. Incredible culture. We had our problems. We all know that. But we're still the birthplace of America's music. And you don't have Elvis Presley, Jimmy Rogers, B.B. King, Muddy Waters. The list goes on and on and on. Robert Johnson. We can go forever. Charlie Pride. It never ends. So I'm just saying there's so much culture here artistically as well. And you got to embrace that as well when you were in Mississippi.
So I was reading Faulkner books, for God's sake.
And William Faulkner's in your backyard at Roanoke. Yep. Exactly.
So I think I remember a story, Randy, something that you also had a little radio station experience through this.
FM, yes. My name was David Summers. It was one of the first new country radio stations. And I worked from 7 to midnight. My roommate he did drive time, Jimmy Lamb, and he caused all kind of trouble. But it was great. Yeah. I mean, so this was another thing, though. This is what Ty did for me. I had a thing called Ole Miss Today. Welcome to Ole Miss Today. Here's what's happening at Ole Miss Today. That was done 5 days a week. I would record 2 weeks at a time, interview professors and people around the campus, and then that went out to whatever the Mississippi radio station network was, and it would play. And so that was Ty Warren setting me up with that. And so I did radio all through graduate school to help make the money and pay the bills and take care of the babies. But that was how I got positioned for success, was largely because of Ole Miss and because of Ty Warren.
Yeah. I just love that your journey to this point. What are you going to say, Mike? I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting that all three of us have that connection. Randy had radio. Steve does a radio show now. I used to do a business radio show. And what we learn about radio, and Steve, you know this as well as anybody because you're doing it every week, it has to be pretty well organized and structured and concise to get our thoughts across and be able to talk about the things that we want to talk about. It's not like you got all day to do it.
And you got to hit that mark, right? You got to hit that time.
Yeah, you got to get to it. I always feel like in my show, so you got to realize I'm as amateur as it gets. I've been doing it in my 8th year, which I think the fact that you got to realize as a guy that visited radio stations to get his music played, for all of those years. I mean, you do the radio tours, what they call it. Before my first hits, I mean, I literally lost my voice. I mean, I had throat surgery after all this, and between the shows and getting up in the morning, no sleep, and trying to push, have the record labels and the promotion guys pushing your music. But I had to be there every time. And so watching the good ones do their thing, you know what I mean? There was always some nuttiness, but at the same time, some brilliance. Morning guys, drive time, all that. They know about their listeners, what they're feeling, what's going on in their lives. So it's way more of them in touch with not just the humorous side of things of life. It's every side of life. And they develop a bond with the listeners that's remarkable. So, being around that on the other side and being the artist and they played my music, which is awesome. But when I started my show, I conjured up a lot of the ones that I remembered that had some heavy spots in them, but were funny as well, but entertaining, period.
Yes. They were your friends. You'd sit with them every morning on the way to work. WKRP, I remember the first time I saw that TV show, I thought, that's right. That was a fairly accurate representation.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Of what life was like. Everybody was a little crazy, but somehow it all worked out together.
Well, it was fun because we got to see a little bit of that when we were all together down in Mississippi at Dancing Rabbit Golf Club, because Bo Rounds did his show that morning from the deck of the clubhouse. And that was just really cool to be able to see him, do that. And obviously it's a sports show, but there was a lot of non-sports stuff that they were talking about.
Yeah. Bo Bounds is fantastic. He is ESPN in Mississippi, and he's spectacular.
Very good guy.
We've had a good
I
time.
was really jealous of what he was doing. I thought, dang, that looks like fun.
He does that for a living.
I know.
Yeah.
We should get him
great
on
at it. So he's great at it. In sports, you can be a little controversial. Every once in a while, he'll be a little controversial, and they'll be talking about him on the SEC network and all that. And, he just glows. But he has an opinion, and he says it. He gets to do that,
All right, so Randy, let's get back to so you go through Ole Miss, you've got the debate national championship and all those kinds of things. How does that get you into the business world?
Yeah, so I went and took a job teaching at UNC Wilmington right after I finished my master's degree at Carolina. Moved the wife down there. We had our first child in Wilmington, and I did also as a TV news anchor for WJKA TV in CBS.
Wow.
For about 3 years. And I kind of toyed with the idea of going in that direction. And you know this story, Steve, after I got an agent, my agent's like, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to move you to Indiana and you're going to get paid $1 more. And that's going to be because that market is, just a little bit bigger. And then we're going to move you 2 years after. And I was like, no, I could just feel it. I was like, that doesn't feel good. So I followed my heart and decided to get a PhD. And one thing led to another. And I ended up getting my PhD at the University of Oregon. Go Ducks. And you correctly identified this is Oregon State colors. This is the Beavers colors. And we're not up in the Northwest. We're not like y'all down in the South. We actually get along pretty well with.
All I can say is that you're a Duck fan, and I am. I have no hotty toddy fans, and you know this, and no State fans that are going to wear each other's colors.
I know.
There's nowhere in the wardrobe or the closet that you can find these things.
This is my Davis Con polo shirt. So I just thought that would be appropriate. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm at the University of Oregon. I'm doing a PhD, and that's a whole weird story. But suffice to say, I got through it. There were some ups and downs and changes in there. The woman who I was working with primarily as my advisor, who is like the captain of your ship for that period of time, she left halfway through because of some budget cuts that the state had to go through. And she went and took a job at Kentucky, and she's like, hey, why don't you come with me to Kentucky? And I'm like, oh, no, I'm going to stay here and finish this doggone thing.
So can I ask you real quick, why did you choose Oregon? What was there?
Well, this particular professor heard me do a speech in Chicago, and I was delivering an academic paper, and it was a weird paper. I'm not going to go into what it was about because it's very deep and bizarre. And there was like 9 people, 9 nerds listening to this in the audience, and this one woman who was a professor, and she came to me after it was over, and she said, "You've got something there. You should come and talk to us at Oregon if you're looking for a PhD." And I looked at Austin and I looked at some other places, but when I came out here, I landed in the second weekend in July, would have been 1989, I guess. And I got off the plane. I was coming from Wilmington. And I got off the plane. So in Wilmington, it's like 119 degrees. And then I get off the plane here and it was like 78 and no humidity. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So I instantly fell in love with the Northwest, and the university here is quite fantastic. We still live here in Eugene, Oregon. It's like a comfortable old shoe to me now. It just feels good. So there we go. I think we may have lost Steve somewhere, but that's hopefully he'll join us back. Yeah. So the Northwest was beautiful, is beautiful. I'd love for you guys to come out here. Well, Steve, you've been out here. You've seen Astoria. In fact, that's where I met you originally, Astoria, Oregon, right up there on the north.
One of my favorite towns in America, no doubt.
It's a beautiful place, and you really can't describe it. It's like you're in another country when you're out there.
Gorgeous, just gorgeous.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. So we're here. We raised both of our kids here, and just fantastic. And they want to come back, which is also a fantastic thing. And it was out here that I started doing consulting in earnest. So I finished the PhD and realized that the teaching jobs were not so good. And then almost immediately I got consulting work, first consulting gig at the FDIC, Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. And my job was to coach examiners who were so bad that they pissed off the board of directors or they pissed off the CEO so much that CEO called their congressman and complained about the examiner. And so I went in to do that. And so the first thing I would ask is, well, give me the presentation that got you into trouble. And so by doing that, I learned a whole bunch about banking and how banks can fail and so forth. And that's what got me into financial services. It was also a really interesting gig.
Which has still been a big part of your consulting.
It is. Yeah, it's foundational. So I sort of just, hit the ground running, lone wolf consultant for a long time, and then started a company called Extreme Arts and Sciences back in around 2000.
Was that in Oregon or Seattle? Because didn't you have an office in Seattle or no?
Yes, we started it in Oregon and was supposed to be oriented toward financial services, but it didn't take long before we got the eye and ear of some people at Microsoft, and then Microsoft became the gorilla in our life for probably, for me anyway, about 12 to 15 years.
Wow. Wow. What years was this, Rant?
So this would have been maybe 2003 or 4 through 17.
So this is the hayest of heydays.
Man, oh man. And it was one of those things where you'd work for 40, hours a day, it felt like, and then we would put in these bids that were, to me, pretty big money, and then after everything settled out, we'd make $1. It was one of those things.
Yeah. The monk guy.
I needed to hire Mike earlier on. I didn't realize that at the time.
Yeah. Wait. So explain to me. So when does was it GoDaddy? Didn't you work?
Yeah.
So all this starts to sort of come in around the same
that
time.
whole world started to, they all connect and so forth. We did a little work with Amazon and all the other sort of big monsters that were in Seattle. And I would go to Seattle on a Sunday night and then drag my sorry took us home on a Friday evening back to Oregon and just lay on the floor for 2 days trying to recover. And it was just wild because they work 24 hours a day. And so you're there, you're up early, you're cooking with gas. And then at 7 o'clock, somebody decides you should go to dinner. So then you go across town. No, there's never a restaurant near you.
Of course not. Yeah.
No. We have to go to the cool restaurant that's 45 minutes away in traffic. And then we're there, and then we come back, and then somebody wants to go get cigars and bourbon at 11:30. Yeah. And so,
most people don't know what that life really looks like. They think it's glamorous and you don't work very much and that kind of thing. But you and I both know, and Steve, from your entertainment and music experience, it's a nonstop deal. I mean, you go. I can remember going to I had to do back-to-back trade shows for clients in New Orleans, and it was about 10 days straight the French Quarter.
Yeah,
and it was like Groundhog Day. You wake up every morning, it's like, oh my God, I got to do this again.
No, and you have new people with you just about every day.
Yeah,
in our
right.
world.
So
and then
so you got to hit the play button.
They expect the party to be coming to town. Like
that's exactly right.
They've been waiting on you. You're just hitting rewind.
Right.
And that's so funny that y'all went through that. Yeah, but that's part of the building these relationships that we talked about. You had to do it. You just had to do it. And it was a good thing in most cases. And you also got to decide who you didn't want to do it with. Another time that you go, that's taking up too much time. It doesn't feel good to me. I tell you, I still think that all of the times that we've served and over our careers and had to do things with people we didn't want to do it with, the most difficult times in my life.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. You just, it just hurts.
It hurt. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
I got hired one time by a person, I won't even say the state, and they hired me to find out why their turnover was so high. And I'm going to give the guy the name Roy. Wasn't his name, but I'm going to call him Roy for the purpose of this. And so I go and I talk to the first group of employees, which were line employees. And I say, so, blah, blah, blah. What do you like about working here? What do you not like about working here? And people go, Roy. Okay, that was it. All right, so very good.
Yeah.
So then I talk to the middle managers. So your manager here, how long you been here? About 8 years. What's working? What do you don't like? Roy. And then I talk to the senior leadership team, was Roy. And then I have to go make a report to Roy about what's wrong in the organization. And that was a tough conversation to have.
Yeah.
And one of my biggest regrets in my whole career was that I prevaricated. I did not bring the pain in that report the way I should have. I was like, oh, well, maybe, you're not coming across this way, or people are. So I gave it, there was all these little outs. And I remember thinking as I was driving back, I had a long drive back from that gig. And I was just like, I blew that.
You softened the blow because
I softened the blow. I did not look him in the eye and say, you are the problem.
There's your compassionate side battling with the structured and what you have to do side.
Well, but I didn't honor the people that told me the truth.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the more important part.
Was that was that a learning moment for you?
That's the reason I called my company Extreme Arts and Sciences, was because I wanted it to be.
Wow.
I wanted it to be the kind of thing where it was intense. And that, strangely enough, through a bunch of other things, opened up another big door in my life, which was developing relationships with largely retired but occasionally active duty U.S. Navy SEALs.
Yes.
And particularly the officers. And so if you look at the last 15 or 20 years of my life, it's been profoundly informed by these Navy SEAL retired captains. And we've started another happy little company called Happy Tiger, which is these retired Navy captains that go out and do all kinds of different consulting work. And they're just good guys. Now, I will be clear. I am not a SEAL. I've never been a SEAL. Don't want to be a SEAL. Would quit, ring the bell. I'd walk in and ring the bell on day one. Just go ahead and get that done. I would just get it out of the way. But I learn from them. I understand a lot from them, and we get along very well together. Largely, I think, because I don't want to be a wannabe. That's not what I'm about. What I'm about is understanding how do teams of 6 people accomplish the effect of 100 people. That's what I like. So I'm all about what's going on there. How does that occur? And so I've spent a huge amount of time working, training, living with these guys, and it's influenced my whole family. We had 2 SEALs that lived with us for about a year. We were doing work for law enforcement back in the early 2000s, back right after Columbine happened. And law enforcement was dealing with the idea that a SWAT team is going to have to respond to active shooter situations. Wow. Believe it or not, that didn't happen that much before. Right. And so how do we go with automatic weapons to a place where there's 1 or 2 bad actors mixed in with innocence? How do we change our tactics? And so we brought in SEALs to have that conversation with these law enforcement people. And so these 2 young men lived with us for about a year. And at the time we had a 10-year-old daughter and a 13-year-old daughter. And that was just the funniest thing in the world, because my youngest daughter in particular, Dana, she brook no crap from these guys. She was like, no, this is the way it's going to be. And they were like, okay. You're the boss. I was like, ah.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, but that's been a very formative part of who I am and what I bring to.
You've come full circle in your life. So it's interesting because you're talking about growing up in the military families, you and Patty, and now all of a sudden, then all of a sudden, even though you guys weren't, but your daughters got to know their grandparents, right?
Oh yeah.
They were able to experience that, but then seeing the age that the grandparents were when they were in their fighting time, when they were enlisted and in the military, almost you coming back into the military world and using all these things that you've learned over your life and career, it all adds up to me. That makes total sense that you and the Navy SEALs get together, especially after I had y'all on my show. Understand it was a major camaraderie that you could tell that you guys had been in some sort of foxhole together. And they accepted you like you were one of them.
Right.
You were one of them. So I think that's interesting how you've been gravitated basically back to your beginning.
Yeah, it is interesting. And it surprised even me, because my kind of informal nickname with them was Gandhi, and appropriately so. I'm not that guy. I'm not going to kick in a door and do the thing, but I am going to support them. I'm going to do everything I can. What they're doing is outrageously impossible. I mean, that's the thing, that these guys get fired up when somebody tells them you can't do it, or no way you can win. And what they've taught me is that there's no magic. One of the other groups that I've loved over the years, when I was doing work at Microsoft, we worked with big wave surfers coming out of Mavericks in California. These guys that go surf the 50, 60, 70-foot waves, insane. And when I interview them, here's what they tell me. It's not insane. It's only insane if you don't train. It's only insane if you don't figure out how to do it. We spend years working out how to get out there, how to wrap our chests with saran wrap and shrink wrap so that our rib cage doesn't implode. And so we go out there not with a death wish. We go out there believing we're going to do okay. We're going to survive this because we've trained for it and we've prepared for it. And the SEALs are the same way. It's only impossible if you're not prepared and you haven't thought it through. But they learn to kind of cheat. They learn to change the rules in their favor so that it optimizes their strengths.
Wow,
and
it's just amazing. Well, what do you call it? Preparation meets opportunity. And when those real opportunities come, then if they're prepared, you don't know if you're prepared until you have that moment.
Yeah.
And they've had a ton of moments,
Yeah. And if you're prepared, you get to do my word of the year is capitalize. You get to capitalize on that opportunity.
Mike, you
That's
got a word of the year? I don't know.
I got a word of the year. Look at this.
Wait, what?
Here you go, right?
No, my God.
Oh,
Randy, I feel
I feel
slighted. I want a word of the year.
I know. I gotta work on that.
Capitalize. Hey, Randy, can you talk about your book in a minute? I know you may be heading somewhere else, but you have authored a book,
I've
co-authored a
authored,
book.
yeah, co-authored too. I want to mention Carmen
Two
Volake,
books, right?
woman that I've worked with now for a couple of decades.
Right.
She's the one. She's just like she's the Mike Farrell in my life because Mike, and you'll cop to this. Mike is the guy who organizes this whole thing. Mike is the guy that chases the cats around, like, hey, you guys, you got to get in here and do this. Come on, let's do it. And that's what Carmen Volake is, as well as being like super smart.
So the challenge is getting you out of the cold plunge. That's the hard part.
Yeah, that's a challenge.
Cold plunge. I'm a big fan. I bought a cold plunge. I give it a big thumbs up.
Wow.
And if you want to know more about that, we can talk about
Yeah,
that.
we got a bunch of episodes coming. We'll talk about all
Right.
We may even film this from you in the cold plunge.
Yeah, there you go.
I think that would be an awesome thing.
I want to hear you talk with no chatter. Okay, keep going. I'm sorry. So let's talk about your co-authored books with your
So the first book we wrote was a book called Evolutionaries. And as consultants, we go into organizations and we meet these people. And there's always this person, and Mike, tell me if you think this is true. There's always this person when you talk to them, they have a little mischievousness in their eyes. They like working there, but they are frustrated because they could do things so much better. If you just gave them a little bit of room, they could fix a lot of the things that were broken, but they've had their hand slapped sometime along the way or something. And so they're sitting there kind of, with sitting back, and they're not engaging with this magic they could bring. And so there is this, we've discovered there is this person who can't not change things, right? No matter what you do, they're going to want to tinker with it. They're going to want to fix it. One of the first evolutionaries we met direct head on, was being shown a brand new piece of software that took a year to build and $1 million in a hospital. He looks at it, he boots it up, and in 1 second he goes, I want to put this over there. I want this to be blue. And it's like, no, you're not. We just spent $1 million on this. We're not changing anything, but they can't not change things. So I know, Cecilia, your daughter works in a restaurant, right? And swanky restaurants. So
talk about my daughter?
Yeah,
she's a chef.
She's a chef. Okay, so if she's cooking a dish, she does not want an evolutionary in her kitchen. She does not want somebody going, well, I think I could make this a little bit better if I put a little more of this on it, or
You'd
a little
be
less.
kicked out of the kitchen. I promise you that.
Right. Yep.
Consistency becomes the thing. And so what we tried to understand is, what is the organizational dynamic that can leverage the power of these evolutionary people, these people who want to change things no matter what. And so that's what that first book is about. And it turns out Navy SEALs are evolutionaries because they will shoot down plans that the general will bring to them, or the admiral, and they'll go, that'll never work in a million years, you dumbass. And they'll say that, and they can't. Yeah. Because that's their role in the thing, and then they're the ones who are going to go fix it and do the things that make it act.
But you know what? I'm going to back up now and talk about chefs real quick. They are constantly learning. I think that they are open to a lot of ideas that a lot of people may not be open to. I think they're so creative, but there's a time for it and a time when you don't even think about it because it gets intense in there. But I'm telling you right now, you've got a better shot at Cecilia and convincing her of something like that than my grandmother. You had no shot at my grandmother. You were in and out of the kitchen. I'd go in there and tell her, look, Mamo, your dumplings, they need to be a little thicker. You better get out of here, boy. I'd go in and try to give her advice and all this. And I got to the point where it got to be like, I knew I was getting to her a little bit. I was that guy, And she would block it off. I mean, she'd block the kitchen off where I couldn't even get in there.
I love
it.
But you got no shot with her.
It's interesting too. I think, and Steve, you bring up a great point there because, and Randy, I know that you talk a little bit about this in the book because I've had a chance to read it. The difference between learning to change and change for change's sake. Very, very subtle, but very different. That, when you're learning to create change, it's one thing. But when you're just, trying to upset the apple cart because you think you can do something better, that's a little different story.
Randy, have you ever gone into a situation where the company was doing really well and they're wondering why you're there? No, what I'm saying is like, why we're good. How'd you get here? And why are you here? And what is that struggle like?
Yes. Oh, yes. And I think Michael had nod to this as well.
Yeah.
Oftentimes you'll get hired, and you get hired usually by the CEO. And so then you have 9 conversations with the CEO, and then you appear on the site, And I have no idea really what the communication between the CEO and their senior team has been.
Right. Yep.
And so now I'm sitting with the senior team, and they're looking at me with daggers in their eyes going, who is this guy? Why is he here? What's he going to do? Who's getting fired? And so, yes, there's a lot of what the heck is going on. And one of the things that I've been very clear about from the time that I've been coaching in communication is you can be the greatest communicator in the world and you can still get better. You can still improve, and you can be terrible and you can get better, and you can get to be not so terrible. So no matter, we can all get a little better. Now, I will tell you, just like if you could imagine going and working, if you were going to be a fitness coach, and if you go in and you see somebody and you go, okay, well, I can see what we need to do. We need to start with the basics, get some flexibility or whatever it is. And it's very different than if you go in and you're looking at some elite athlete. And then it's like, oh God, what am I going to do with this person? Then it's a little tough.
Exactly. You're dealing with a whole different.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So
when you have
not only that, you're dealing
somebody
with
that's really cruising and they're really working.
Yeah.
Then you really don't want to do any harm. That's the first thing. You don't want to screw things up. You want to better understand why that is working and then try to amplify it.
Okay, so
capitalize.
Yeah, capitalize. But you got a word. I just don't get it.
It's a little bit about like the golf swing, Steve. If you're a 25 handicap, well, there's a lot of things we can work on.
Bingo.
If you're a 2 handicap, we're going to get really, really specific.
I do want to say something. Y'all both have brought up some points, and I know you were a golf pro for a while, Mike. And in your own way, you're a golf pro, Randy. You just don't know it. It's just a different game of golf. But no, great golf pros that I've had that have worked with me over my lifetime, they sit there and they watch you hit balls, and they don't say anything forever. And I'm going like, I'm out here. Come on, fix. I want to. But they're taking the time to listen and pause, as we talked about earlier. They have a great coach, has a great sense of pause, and really wants to, before they talk, they're absorbing all this, and they want to have something to say rather than just run their mouth. And then everybody's golf swing, no matter what you say, is a little different. So they're probably trying to figure out the perfect swing for you in business. You can't just go in and coach everybody the same, right? You're dealing with personalities. So I would imagine that, I've had 3 or 4 different drummers over my career that I can tell you that the ones who were a long time, they were all very different, very, very different. They were all amazing. But every little way, the when they hit the snare and how they hit the snare and the rhythmic value and all this, they all had this certain way of doing it that was very exciting for me. But when you had to have a conversation with them about how, because things have to move around how I'm feeling.
Right.
And that's not necessarily the best thing sometimes, but the show isn't on a click track ever. It's on real time, how your emotions feel.
Right.
And that drummer you have to feel like he's perfect. But so the way I've had to communicate with different drummers over my life were very, very different. But the outcome.
So you have to be specific. You have to be specific, but then you also have to take care of their identity and their sense of face.
You have to
their
go
egos.
Yeah. Well, like you said, I don't know if I could have done it the extreme way, the extreme. I think that the way you handled the first way, which you were disappointed in yourself, is the way I've always handled musicians.
Well, and and that's because that ultimately ends up working, because it's not going to work at all if you just blow it up. Right?
Yeah. Well, we're playing music too, so it's not in a big business moment, but it's big business, and it's business to us, but it's just a different game. So you got to do it with kid gloves and a big hug and love and all that.
One of the biggest things I'm working on right now with some clients is this concept of pulse or rhythm, the rhythm of the business. One of the things we learned at Microsoft was everything is about the ROB, the rhythm of the business. Microsoft Corporate has an ROB. And so if I'm working at Xbox, my ROB has to align with their ROB. I have to connect with that. So this idea of rhythm and the rhythm of the calendar, one of the things I learned from Microsoft was when you say June 30th is going to happen. June 30th is inexorable. It will occur. So it's not about when the project's done. It's about June 30th. And so that deadline is like solid. And so the calendar ends up being this way that you keep time. That's the click track of their organizational life. Woo! That was kind of a thought.
That's amazing.
And I'll tell you, the other interesting thing about that, Randy, is if we look back 1,500 years, the Benedictines have been talking about this idea of rhythm since day one. Because everything, if you read the Rule of Benedict, everything is scripted. Everything happens at a certain time for a certain reason. It's very, very programmatic. This happened. This is when we do prayer. This is when we eat. This is when we work. All of those kinds of things. It's that rhythm of the day and rhythm of the community. And it ties directly into what you're talking about as far as the rhythm of business. I talk to organizations about that all the time.
Yes. And it's so the reason I'm using the word pulse is because pulse is something you feel.
Sure.
And so the trick is, how do we align the pulse of the employee with the rhythm of the business? And how do we account for the pulse in the rhythm of the business? In other words, how do we make people a part of the success of the equation? And what we find, and I'm sure in Benedictine times, that what that was about was, if we have all of this is the way it is, then I don't have to think about that anymore. My mind is now free.
Right.
I don't have to worry about that. I can now concentrate on what is really more important.
Yep. And Benedict would even say it allows us to be the best of what we can be.
There you go. It's as simple as that.
Wow. I got a word now.
What's
Something
that?
to work on.
Listening.
There we go.
Listening. That's going to be my word of the year.
Now, y'all can't see it, but Steve
I have to work on that, huh?
He has the name Steve on his note paper.
Well, no, I bet
That's
you
the
got,
kind that's the kind of rock star Steve is.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
got two names there. Look at that.
And that's why he's allowed to wear sunglasses on the
I'm
podcast.
not going to always do it. I've had a hat. I just want, I want to show y'all that I do have hair.
Mine's pretty blank, but it matches my shirt.
Now, I had to bring this in. We have a gear closet where we keep stuff for hiking and camping and everything. And every time we open it up, we see Steve.
Wow. I didn't get one of those. I'm kind of jealous.
I ordered this from Azar Enterprise before I ever met him to include in a basket for my wife, because I think she had a little crush on him back.
Then she saw that picture with the holes in the jeans and she said, I really think, I think Randy
it's still there. This still hangs up with some pride. But no, I had been driving through Mississippi and I heard some of your music and I said, who is this guy? Who is this guy? And I came to find you.
You were definitely you weren't a pretender because you knew some of the deep cuts.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Because you tested me early. Like I was going, he knows empty spaces. There's no way he knows empty spaces. Now that is my kind of guy.
I'm one of those people. If I like something, I like it a lot, right? So as soon as I find an artist that I like, I'm all over it. If it's an author,
and then you met me, and then just said, "Dang it, he's nothing like the music." Dog.
I was really nervous to meet you, and it was my wife who said, "Get your sorry ass over there and talk to him." And I was like, "No, I'm not going to be that guy. I'm not going to do that." And so she went over and talked to you. That's the way.
But our son Strack, because we were celebrating Strack's graduation from Chapman, out in California.
Yes.
And he was about to go into he was been doing the film thing forever, obviously. But we were celebrating that, and we had all our kids with us. So Adrian, who was about to go to Ole Miss. Oh, Adrian was at Ole Miss. Cecilia was still in high school. And I remember Strack going, "Hey, Dad, I think that man at the bar wants to talk to you." And I went, "Why are you saying that?" And he goes, "I think he does." And so I said, "Okay." So that was it was amazing that he noticed that.
Yes. And I think Patty said to you, "Let me buy you a drink," and you said, "No, I'll buy you a drink." And that's how it all.
How nice is that?
Yeah, no kidding.
Wait. Would you call that profound?
That's profound hospitality.
All right.
You score a PH. You get a PH.
I got to be real honest with y'all. I don't like people buy. I love buying things for people, drinks and stuff. Yeah, I'm that guy. My dad was that way. And, my wife, a lot of times, Gwen will go, "Look, you can't just you can't argue with it for like 10 minutes. Y'all just split it at some point."
Right.
So,
exactly.
But I've always feel uncomfortable for some reason. It's sort of and it's probably cost us, it's very expensive to be me, by the way.
Is that the next song?
Yeah. I love hearing the story. I know the story, Randy, but you enlightened me for some things of just growing up. And I forget sometimes about the military background with your dad and your father-in-law, and then loving the Navy SEALs. I just think that's sort of full circle. And you've got other things that's going to happen. I think Mike will tell you as well. I just think you're just sort of getting started. You know, like
Ha.
there's great energy with both of y'all. And I hope that y'all see this with me. I feel like, you know, they're saying like, oh, you're going to put us out to pasture at some point. But man, I feel like the pasture is, if that's what it is, there's a whole lot going on over there that wasn't going on over our careers in the hayest of days. It's just really interesting. And so how have we all prepared ourselves for the later years? Now we're past, what do you call when they're not the wonder years or the, what years, the golden years? What are we
Golden years. Yeah.
Awful sounding. It's awful.
Fading.
As my dad used to say, they're not for sissies.
No, I know. It's right. Getting older is not for sissies. But don't y'all feel like that we are all at a point of there, it just feels right.
Yeah.
So I think that what happens is that as we engage with the environment that we're in, it's a dance kind of, and we have to be elastic to the situation that we find. We have to be able to conform to whatever the demands are of that piece.
Mm-hmm.
So one of my mentors says that, you know, when you walk up to a staircase, you adapt to the staircase. The staircase is the staircase. You know how to go upstairs, but you have to adjust. Do it so suddenly you probably don't even notice it. So, and he was saying you do this with everything. And by doing that adaptation, all of a sudden you see new possibilities. And so by doing more, we've seen more potential. And the potential wasn't even visible to us when we started. And now, oh my goodness, there it is. And so some of the things that I'm seeing right now, holy smokes, what's going on right now in the world of quantum physics and science and astronomy in general. I mean, theories that we've had for 500 years are falling left and right as Hubble and the Deep Space telescopes are showing us whole new views of reality. I want to start over. I want to go back to college. I want to go back through a whole astrophysics degree, because this is like Newton was walking around, you know? And same thing with AI and everything else. I mean, it's just like, wow, it's popping.
Well, and I think that's a great point that you want to go back, because I think the other side of this that I talk about all the time is that we need to go back. We have the future in front of us, but we have to understand the foundation that we came from. Really, those ancient principles and ideas that maybe have fallen by the wayside over the last few decades.
Well, I mean, if you think about
grounded to, you know,
if you think about Benedict in particular, I mean, if you think about this guy who's writing in 500 and 530, okay, well, guess what? A whole lot of stuff happened 300, 400, 500 years after that. I mean, with the Enlightenment and the whole thing, and Gutenberg and
Industrial Revolution.
I mean, just everything changed, and those principles have held.
Well,
through
for
catastrophic change.
It's amazing. So for me personally, my sights, I don't know if they were set on it, but you get to these moments of climactic moments of it's Madison Square Garden, not some club somewhere, right? It's Rose Garden. It's the Boston Garden. It's all the places that you, in your mind, could you be there? And then you're there. And then you have your hits on the radio. And then you have #1 music videos. All this stuff's happening, right? Well, what happens after that when radio passes you by a little bit? You got streaming, all that. I'm just saying there's a time in your life, especially when you're a mutt like me, there's a time in your life where what's going to make you that happy? And I'm that happy with everything that's going on. And it's all music related or arts related or whatever, or people in my life related. And I'm very grateful. So I'm extremely grateful. And I'm getting to do it on my home turf, where the home turf is the greatest music, the birthplace of America's music. So to be recognized on my home turf like I have been, and have the official state song after 60 years and going in with children and all that, like we've talked about, it's another level of excitement. And it just keeps, it's so, it's surreal. It just doesn't make any sense. But so I'm that happy. I'm that happy is what I'm saying.
Take a tuning fork and you whack the tuning fork and you hold it up near another tuning fork. The second tuning fork will begin to vibrate. Right? So that first tuning fork is putting this stuff out there, and the second tuning fork is picking it up, and it starts vibrating. And that's what's going on here. Is you, dare I say it, maybe this is too on the nose, but the reason you're happy is because your experiences of life are resonating. There is resonance with your soul, with what's in your heart, with with what Benedict would say, you're listening with the ears of your heart, with your life. And so that's why it feels good. And I've gone through phases recently where I could all of a sudden feel the resonant that was not resonant. It was like,
Right.
it was like, that ain't happening. That's not what I want or need right now. And so as I look at the page turning around retirement or not retirement and all those kind of things, I'm really trying to understand how to find that vibe that you're experiencing right now. And then I think, Mike, you are too. I'm looking at you. You're as happy as I can imagine you could be.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question. And it's really, I think, and kind of to put a bow on this episode, Randy, you talk about this idea of resonance, and we're kind of like 3 tuning forks right now, and they're all vibrating. And I think that's what's so cool about us doing this podcast, and certainly us expanding beyond that, and being able to work with companies and organizations going forward, because we bring these ideas of the power of song, the creativity, the listening, the transformation, all of these ideas that we've talked about over these last 3 podcasts, and be able to bring those on a podcast every week and in other work that we're going to be doing. And so I think that's the exciting part for me as I enter, I guess, what we call the final chapter, and really look at, okay, now this is something that's going to be really fun, that I get to do it with 2 guys that I highly respect and truly enjoy. And, I think that aspect of it really is cool for me.
Well, I will say that the music piece of this is not insignificant as
Not
far
at
as
all.
Well, we haven't even gone there yet. So we're just obviously just introducing.
I would say listen to Indianola 38 times and your world will change. I mean, I love your music, but that album really got under my skin and I kind of wore it out.
You know what's funny about that? I've written, I don't know what's happened a lot in my lifetime, but I write these things and I don't know where they come from. They just sort of fall, and I don't understand where I'm at and why am I writing that, right? It's not like it's a particular thing that's inspired me. It just sort of takes over me. And I've caught myself writing myself into the future multiple times. And all of a sudden I'm there at that point in my life and I go, oh my gosh, I wrote that about me. Like that that was 10 years ago. And how did I get here? And there's the song. And it's exact. And maybe it's my interpretation, right? I got you. And I could be getting a little deep or whatever. But the bottom line is I'm positive. And I've done that so many times in my life that I can't count anymore. So I got to be careful. Like this killing me thing. I don't want to be writing myself into that.
No.
Well, and that's a good segue to end this, because I think in our next podcast, we're actually going to get that guitar in Steve's hands, and we're going to hear about Killing Me,
50?
and really talk about that idea of the power of song, and certainly talk about the struggles that all of us have gone through, in our careers. So with that, I'm gonna wrap things up, fellas, and it's been a great episode, and we will see you next time. Thanks everybody for joining in. Remember that you can get the Resonance podcast at all of the popular podcast places, Spotify, Apple Music, all of those spots.
Stitcher, Google Play, Amazon. Stop that.
Yeah.
Stop that. I got to get a new picture.
Yeah. And as you go forward this week, capitalize.
Later on.
Take care.
Thanks for listening to Resonance. Find us at resonanceleader.com.